Hey, Derek. I want to go back to Marco a little bit. After the season he had last last year, what do you what do you want to see from him in the exhibition?
Probably where he left off in the playoffs last year. His compete was really high at the time. Huge impact on the game, winning a lot of battles, played with energy, played with jam at a consistent level, which was pretty impressive to see. Sometimes younger players, they get through that grind. You get into the playoffs, American Hockey League playoffs can be very heavy. A lot of older type players there, and he was the one with some jam, and he was the one making impacts in the game. So probably just where he left off from last year, you can see he's got some confidence. The way he's handling himself in camp here. So very excited to see how that translates into the preseason.
Do you think a lot of that is just maturity?
Yeah, maturity, but I think some confidence. A lot of touches, a lot of success in that league. I think it kind of a little combination of both, a little maturity, but some confidence.
Nate Danielson seems like he was born mature, but is his hockey IQ just one of the things that stands out the most about him?
For me, it does. Keep learning more about the player, but you watch him, and I just love the way he plays defensively. I love the way he supports the puck. Just seems like some concepts or maybe some habits we spend time developing with young players a lot. He seems to already have a lot of those habits. I think a lot of it comes from that IQ.
And lastly, just regarding the goaltenders, I know in exhibition you usually switch him midway, but with Ville Husso, does he need at least one full game in your mind, or maybe more?
Yeah, he'll get, obviously the luxury of 8 games is obviously a lot of reps for goalies, and he'll for sure get a full game plus some other opportunities too.
Thank you.
Max Boltman.
Eric, how much stock do you put into the chemistry that guys like DeBrincat and Kane would have with Gustafson dating back to Chicago, especially when you're putting together?
Yep, that's real. Probably went into even the signing, and just you get the player. It's a one of coach's first exercises is to watch them from their past. The beauty of technology in this day, you can literally pick out any time of the season and when. And I watched a lot of their power play, and there is some chemistry there. Gus does find a way of transporting the puck on the blue line and giving Patrick some time. And he also does a really good job of, I know it seems like a small habit, so a little bit in practice today, he seems to find DeBrincat's sweet spot. So there is some chemistry between those three, and something we're excited to look at in the preseason.
Does DeBrincat shoot it like lower from the flank than would be like typical of a one-timer guy? I feel like I notice him go down like.
And I think that's feel. I think good scorer, probably just getting the right ice. I think it's more getting inside the dot than where he is above or below it. But yeah, he obviously found that spot a couple times today, and I think that's just probably a feel for him. Where's the open ice? And so I don't know so much of it being north-south. We're always preaching the east-west of it and getting more inside that scoring area.
And then we talked to Tyler Mott earlier. How do you think he can help him or help you guys? And what do you know about him from playing against him?
I've watched a lot of him in the league. It's someone we've talked about the last few years around that free agency time. I like the player. We talked about maybe this lineup slotting a little more natural than our teams have looked in the past going into the season, and takes a lot of pride and good habits. I mean, something as simple as being a stop starter type habits. Excellent on the penalty kill today. But that's him. Took a lot of pride in his reps today. So I think he's going to give us some quality minutes for the group.
Thank you.
Bob Duff.
Yeah, Derek, along those lines, you have talked a lot about how players in this group seem to slot into roles more naturally. Can that help make a team maybe more, I don't know if playoff ready is the right word, suited to playing kind of the playoff style hockey you have to play to succeed in this league?
Could be. Yeah, you hope so. Again, we're trying to take some steps from where we were last year. And I just guys understanding their roles, understanding their identity, I think is successful to any team that's trying to win hockey games. So that's kind of maybe what I was alluded to with some guys slotting a little more probably into their role early on. And again, it'll be a work in progress in the preseason, but I think we're all excited to see it.
And you, with Mott, he's one of those guys. You got like Fisher's that way, and even Joe Valeno, who they average around 100 hits a season. How valuable an asset is that in the bottom six to have guys that play that kind of punishing physical style to wear down a team?
Huge. Energy to it, momentum to it. You need that. And this maybe kind of some of those habits I alluded to with him earlier. He plays direct hockey, finishes checks, gets back above plays. A lot of those habits is what we're constantly trying to preach with our group. That's probably the intrigue of the player.
Thank you.
Ansar?
Yeah, Derek, I know line combinations are always fluid, but is it a certain comfort level when you've got a Kopp, Rasmussen, and Fisher who've had so much chemistry together that you can go to them at any time?
Absolutely. I think those three really embraced that role down the stretch last year. Led us to some nice wins down the stretch, and they were a big part of driving that. So again, maybe it also kind of piggybacks those roles and identity that we talked about with guys potentially slotting a little more natural. But of course, so there's some chemistry there. I don't know if it's so much chemistry, more of acceptance and want from those guys. A couple of those games last year when we gave them some really tough checking assignments, they really embraced it. Did a really good job for us.
And Kopp and Fisher in particular have talked about how they have more offense in them. What kind of a balance is that for guys that want to produce more offensively, but you certainly don't want it to come at the expense of their checking game?
Yeah, of course. I still think playing the right way can create offense. I go back to that Islander game last year. Just pops in my head. I think they had 3-point night that line. But they had a 3-point night because they played the right way. They got to the net. So you can still, have that B type of game, that checking type of game and create some offense. It's just, it probably looks a little more honest, at times.
Thanks, Derek.
Last question will go to Ted.
Hey, Derek. Hey, what do you want to see tomorrow out of the scrimmage?
Structure, that's probably much more concepts. We'll probably be fluid with the lines. It will probably even look very similar to last year. We'll play some 5-on-5 hockey, and it'll be a lot of our concepts, a lot of our structure. We'll get a full period of special teams, and then we'll also address our 4-on-4 and 3-on-3, which is important, and it helps us along in our process, introducing everything. So for me, it's probably going to be a lot more of structure and concepts over maybe some line combinations and chemistry when it comes to maybe pairs and lines.
And how's training camp changed since you started coaching? It seems like it's become such a year-round job now. All these guys are always in shape, basically, right?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know if it's changed a whole lot, but that is the one, even obviously our management team usually alludes to that. Them all playing in this league for so long, even in their evolution, it's just a whole lot different. Probably a day and age of training camp, there was a part of it was getting guys in shape. I don't think that's quite the case here, but I think it's just implementing your process, trying to get everything in properly, and having them understanding. I really like 3 days of camp so far, from our structure, even our special teams. Just a little continuity, same coaching staff, like a lot of the core coming back. I mean, I'm sure you guys, even yourself, you can see it looks maybe a little cleaner, might be the word. Certainly feels like a lot less teaching so far, which is always positive from a coach.
Hey, when do you think you'll see Sider? Do you think he'll be back?
I think we'd probably, with the process he's going through, I think he'll be around for practice on Tuesday is the plan.
So he's just basically, I mean, you know, he's going to be in shape. It's just, he has to catch up a little bit on the stuff.
Yeah,
that
you can
put
see,
in.
obviously, 100%. You saw the intensity of our first 3 days. There's value to that. Probably even some science to that. You know, kind of get your workloads elevated a little bit. That you're probably going to work off throughout the year. So he'll have some catch up to do, but I'm sure we've got a couple eager assistant coaches that would love that assignment.
Thanks, Derek.